So let's talk about what we're going to be doing here. We're going to be talking about multiplayer, and then we solicited questions from the fans here on Twitter, and we're going to be going through quite a few of them. And we know you didn't know what to ask, you didn't know what to expect, but a lot of these things are going to work out pretty well. If we ask your question, you're going to see your name up there, Twitter user. Then we'll get in contact with you a couple weeks hence, and we'll reach out to you via Twitter at PlayStation. And if we use your question, you're going to get an autographed poster of this beautiful God of War Ascension art signed by Todd and the rest of the team. So let's talk about the team. Let's set the tone. We are doing, clearly, you're doing something new here with multiplayer and a lot of other things. The team, should they know you? Let's ask the first question here. This is from Akoro on Twitter. What other games has Todd Pappy, the game director, worked on in the past? Tell us about that.
I started in '96, worked on San Francisco Rush at Midway, and then worked on San Francisco Rush 2, and then Rush 2049, and then Dr. Mito, and then from there, Midway San Jose shut down, and I moved down here, started working on God of War 1. I think I came in about a year into development, and then finished that one out as a senior designer. And after God of War 1, I left the company, moved to Texas, worked on a small PSP Battlezone game, and then 15 months later moved back and started working on God of War 2. Right before Alpha, worked on Pegasus, worked on tuning with Corey and Nate Gary, and then from there went on to be the design director on God of War 3, and then now I'm the director on this one.
All right, so been working on God of War franchise for almost 10 years. It's
yes.
kind of crazy how long that's been going on. And I remember I first saw you at the reveal of God of War 3. You were driving the demo for the media.
When I died.
You did die a couple times on the heartbeat sequence.
Just once.
Maybe I'm remembering it differently. So one time, we'll give you that. Let's meet the rest of your team. So what we did is we came in here last week, and we started meeting some of the other directors that are working on the game. And why don't we take a look at what they had to say, and let's meet this team that's making God of War Ascension.
I've been on this team since 2003. By far, it is the most talented team that I've ever been on. I think this role brings a hell of a lot of pressure. You know, being able to follow in the footsteps of Corey, Dave, and Stig, it's an honor.
Todd is designing. So Todd is basically, his whole focus for this game has been design. So for me, that's awesome, and it's scary at the same time, because everything that we've looked at in this game together has been, what can we do to improve the design?
We've done Titans, we've done Pegasus, we've done, basically anything and everything in Greek mythology. And for us this time, it's how do we put ourselves into the champion of the gods? For us, we're making sure that we're changing a lot of underlying factors to make sure that the game feels fresh and new.
First got into the role, the first thing we did was we examined the entire design, from everything the player does in terms of how he navigates through the world, the stuff he interacts with, the enemies he fights, his abilities that he has. And we went through step by step when we examined everything. Where were some of the things that we wanted to really modernize, where we wanted to make cooler? And there were some things that just kind of stuck out, like, you know what, this is kind of old. We really need to look at this and make it a little bit more modern.
From a team perspective, from a creative standpoint, we want to try new things. We want to make sure that the fans get a new experience and actually, want to buy this game, play the game. And I think if we rested on our laurels and just did the same thing over and over again, it's not something I would want to do, and I don't think it's something that the team would want to do. We kept our team, and first and foremost, all that knowledge that went into making God of War 3 carried on to this one.
The team's unbelievable. I mean, we're filled with people that came from other studios where they were leads, right? So when you come into a meeting room and you're talking about a design aspect, you never feel like you're surrounded by people that are going to let you down or fail or anything like that. If anything, you're walking into that room going, what's possible, going into that room and then coming out of it like, man, are we really going to do this? And then 2 months down the road or 3 months down the road, you're like, yeah, we are going to do this, and it's going to be awesome. I can't wait for people to see this,
I'm not going to lie. It's tough, distilling God of War down into an essence, because God of War single player does not translate very well to God of War multiplayer. So from there, it's figuring out, okay, God of War's essence is facing this way. Well, let's make multiplayer face just this way.
I want this to be better than 3. I want it to be better than 2. I want it to be better than 1. But I want to take everything that they played in 1 and everything they played in 2 and 3 and make it feel familiar, just better. Like, man, this is even better than what it was. And it keeps getting better and keeps getting better and keeps getting better.
You know, we've cut our teeth on this one, and it's been a learning experience for all of us.
Welcome back live from Santa Monica Studios. Jeff Rubenstein along with game director Todd Pappy from God of War Ascension. I really liked particularly about that interview. I got to meet Mark Simon for the first time, and he was so enthusiastic and dropping F-bombs and
he's a spark plug.
Yes, and so we actually have a larger conversation that we'll have with him on this week's PlayStation Blogcast coming up this Thursday. So if you want to hear more of the very excitable Mark Simon, we'll have a lot of that. Talk about the rest of your team. You have some new additions as well, correct?
Yeah, we decided to go with a new composer, Tyler Bates. So he'll bring in a fresh take to the God of War series. I mean, he's done very epic movies in the past, and he knows kind of what we're going for, and I'm interested in pushing it in a new direction with him.
So this is a major sort of a kingmaker, this position of game director of the God of War series. We of course had David Jaffe directing God of War 1, Corey Barlog with God of War 2, and then Stig Asmussen with God of War 3, and we saw you up on stage with him in that sequence, and commented that you look like a serial killer when you were up there.
Well,
Deadly serious.
I was very focused. I didn't want to mess up.
Yes, and you didn't then, so that worked out well. So that leads us to our second Twitter question, and a reminder: if we ask your question, you've already won an autographed God of War Ascension poster, and we'll get in contact with you soon. So Jarl Bernstein asks, with a new director for every game, what will be your particular mark on the franchise, Todd?
I think the thing for us when we start a game, my background is in design, so I look at things of how can we kind of dismantle the single player game and pull out different things and insert new things to make it feel new and fresh, and then we've got multiplayer. So I think that's going to be the big thing for us, and bringing it into the franchise and hopefully breathing new life into the franchise as well.
All right, we're going to get into multiplayer here in just a second, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about your design and the fact that sort of some of the sacred cows that we've always seen in the God of War series, like an icon of like a square or circle button over an enemy's head, or a lot of the QuickTime events, they look different. Or even just lifting up one of the chests where you always hit R1 to do that. Right. Things are different here. So talk about some of those changes.
I mean, for example, the red chests. We used to struggle with those, and there's no point. It's a gift. Why struggle? Why waste time doing that? And then for us, we're looking at how we can unify everything together. So you'll see like a new moniker over somebody's head when you can go in for the kill. Well, that's going to tie into the world as well. So it's how can we work on our visual language so it's clear across the board. Yeah,
I'd like to see in the characters, instead of, we always see Kratos struggling with the two hands, and then he did with one hand.
Right.
Now they're just smashing the chest
just
open.
bashing it.
Yeah, which is fitting pretty well with God of War. So our question here from that ended up being kind of prophetic from Xbando on Twitter. He said, there are rumors that God of War Ascension will have multiplayer. Can you say anything on this, or is it a secret right now? It's still a secret, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
well,
totally.
Maybe not. So, all right, multiplayer in God of War. Why multiplayer?
For us, we wanted to try something new. I mean, it's a new challenge, and we wanted to come to the basically industry and say, hey, this is our take on it, and what do the fans think? So if we couldn't bring something new to the industry, we weren't going to do it. I mean, last game we had the Titans. So it's what can we bring that's new? How can we take multiplayer and put our spin on it?
Mm-hmm. And something that we always want to make clear here, and this is something, God of War is based, and the reason we're doing this live and that God of War is huge is because amazing single player experiences, and I think people, gamers want reassurance that this multiplayer edition is not going to take anything away from that experience.
Okay, I'll look into the camera for this one.
Yes.
it's our bread and butter. We understand that. Okay, I'm just. We know that. You know, it's what we do, and for us, introducing the multiplayer thing is something for us to really sink our teeth into and have fun with. You know, the formula for the single player built on, you know, our three mechanics: combat, puzzles, as well as navigation, and then just kind of mixing and matching those together and making it feel fresh and new. So we're constantly looking at single player. How can we reevaluate it? How can we, again, distill it down to an essence and break it apart and move things around and try new things? But we're also doing that with multiplayer now.
All right, so we'll talk a whole lot more. I know a lot of the questions that came in were about single player, and I've got just a ream of them, and we'll be getting to those later on here during the live stream. But right now, let's talk about the new thing, and that is multiplayer. So what we've got here is we're going to break down some of the game footage. You might have seen some of this stuff come out a couple of hours ago. We've got a couple extra shots here, and we're going to go through and you know, get your Madden hat on there and
color commentary.
Yes, exactly. We need a telestrator. All right. So this first shot might be new to some of you.
Yes, this is an exclusive for the PlayStation blog. We this is how we introed in our live demo that we did for the press. This is about a minute or two into the demo. So what you saw here was you saw magic, you saw health, you saw a kill, brutal kill.
Yes.
A stab in the back. And then from here, we've got our reveal.
So let's talk about this dude here, this giant Cyclops,
Right.
Megalops, I think you were referring to him as.
That's what we call him.
And
because we can't pronounce the Greek name.
well, yeah, and you're forgiven for that. But how big is he compared to some of the stuff we've seen in previous God of Wars?
I want to say he would be a baby brother of one of our Titans before. I mean, he's extremely tall, but again, you know, if you kind of compare his hand versus Kronos, like we ripped off his nail, but you can see that his nails are pretty damn close to Kronos's.
But I don't know that we've ever seen anything this big in a multiplayer game before.
Exactly, exactly. So when we were talking about multiplayer, it was how can we infuse God of War bravado or what we're known for, you know, big moments, wow moments, the scale and scope, the brutal kills, the violence, the melee combat.
All right, so let me know what we're seeing here. We've got a red team and a blue team.
Yeah, so real quick, you can see right here, he's got what we call a sub-weapon, which was a club. Earlier you saw him knock somebody off, and then here we'll go into a combo attack where you can tether into him, and then now this is brutal kill.
That is brutal.
And then player one will go over and actually start capturing the points. So this is a little bit later on where the whole idea behind this game mode is that you're capturing 2 points. So it's, in essence, it's domination. So you're controlling 2 points, one here and then one below that we'll get to in a second. And then here's the sword guy's brutal kill, where we flay him open.
I like how the hand goes off, a little Luke Skywalker, actually.
Yeah, and you'll see it later on. And then we flay him open, clean off the sword, and then here's the second point down below. And then once a team captures both points and owns them both, that pulls them to one side. So this is him being pulled over to the Spartan side. And then now the gods present the Spear of Olympus to you. And this is where the game mode changes. It goes from
let me see if I go back here just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. So there's an interesting sort of a spike trap kill here. Let's right there.
Right. So we've got spikes, we've got flames, we've got saw blades, and we have kind of what we call a giant hair curler of spikes down below. So we want to make sure that there's different ways that people can play. Not everybody's going to be good at melee combat, but some people might be excellent at doing traps. Some people might.
So this was not something that happened in the just automatically in the level. This was activated.
Right, right. So he activated it right here, and there'll be different ways that you can activate it and almost prime it so that it's associated with your team or with you. And then if somebody walks into it, then they get a quick tell, and then the spikes fire. But we want to make sure that there were different ways to support your team. So people can go up in chests, like you see in the upper corner. People can set traps. People can, kind of be your wingman or something like that, and assist you. So if you run in packs, then it's a way for us to support different play styles.
So early on, at the beginning of the mode, with the Spartans and the Trojans, they're fighting over the territories. They're trying to spin those wheels to bring this giant megalops in. And then now, how does the game mode change to? Who's doing what now?
So once you acquire the God Spear, which this guy has on his back, now it becomes attack and defend. So blue is trying to keep red from getting the megalops into this position where he's stunned, and now we can red one. So red gets to finish off with a gory kill.
Yeah, that's gory.
Can you pause it?
Yeah.
Actually go forward a little bit more?
Sure.
Okay, pause it. So one of the things that we're messing around with right now is, from a team standpoint, you might not have done the best, but you're the one that picked up the God Spear, and you brought it up here. Well, we want to make sure that the person that does the best actually gets the final kill. So that's kind of why you saw the board clear, and now, since this guy did the best in the game, now he comes in and he gets the final kill.
Let's take a quick look at that. That's, yeah, a little bit of that right there. So at that point, when we get into the attack and defend, could the Trojans have pushed the Spartans back and gone back into the more the domination mode at that point?
So if they've killed the guy with the Spear of Olympus on his back, then the spear would have been reset somewhere in the level, and then basically the Trojans need to wait it out a certain period of time, and then once that time limit is over, the Megalops goes back to the center, and then it goes back into domination.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the modes, the amount of players. This would appear to be 8 players here?
8 players. We're talking 2 in a minimum, obviously. And then max of 8, and then from there, we're still kind of figuring out the game modes, flushing them out a little bit more, trying to figure out what God of War spin can we do to a death match or a capture a flag or that kind of stuff.
What's it like? I mean, if you're creating a multiplayer shooter, you've got a lot of things you can draw from.
Right.
Not a lot of melee multiplayer out there, especially not on console.
Yeah.
So what were you looking to when you were developing, like, what feels right?
Well, obviously we looked at our combat first, and then we started looking at fighters as well as Power Stone, kind of similar camera angles and everything like that. But the thing for us is that we want to make sure that the players get into kind of a little bit of a dance with each other, where I can read what you're going to do, you can read what I'm going to do, and it's more about how do I set you up in order to get you out of my way or to kill you off and go on to the next objective. We have a couple of screens here, and I think a few that were not out there in general. So let's just go through. We got 9 of them here. So Polyphemus, I guess, is the name of this megalops. Yes, the original Cyclops. So from here, this was a high concept that Izzy, our lead character artist, or lead concept artist for characters did, and so you can kind of see the scale of everything, where we've got little bodies here that hang off of him and skulls, and so we're always trying to sell scale, and then from there it was how do we kind of chain them up in the background. So Izzy came up with this idea where we can actually bracket into his neck, and it actually adjusts his larynx a little bit, and then from here he's also it's pinned through his arm.
Yeah, you don't want that guy running around.
No.
All right, so here is a concept of the
this would be a high-level piece that Jung, our lead concept for levels, did, and so again, it's just to kind of sell the mood and very high-level idea of what we're going for very early on, and then we take this and we hand that over to a level artist, and then the level artist can build from there.
And here is what it looks like in the game. Not a huge amount of difference, which I guess is the goal, right?
Yeah.
So that's actually rendered out on a PS3.
Yes.
Now here, let's talk a little bit here, nice low angle. Let's talk about the characters and let's talk about the weapons.
Well, we're showing two weapons right now. So you can see hammer here, and then this guy has a trident sword that is aligned to Poseidon, and then he's got a sword over there that's aligned to Zeus. So this one is also aligned to Poseidon. So you can see kind of some of the different themes that we're running with. Tridents, basically the crustacean theme, and then with Zeus, we run a little bit more gold and opulence. You know, that's what we're aiming for. And then white leather and.
Let's talk about these alignments. Let's talk about. So you align yourself with one of four gods.
One of four gods.
And now, is that a class?
In essence, it is. So we've got Zeus, Hades, Poseidon, and Ares. And it's our way of introducing class into this system, so that we can give away things, but also we can theme them out per god. So Zeus is going to have lightning, Ares is going to have fire, so on and so forth, and then from there it's how do we build magics off of that, how do we build specials off of that, how do we build perks off of that, so on and so forth, and also armor sets.
So and then with weapons, you're going to have loadouts, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Any other things that we haven't seen yet that weapon-wise that you've been enjoying using?
We're still working on the other ones right now, and we'll reveal those at a later date.
All right, so let's take a look here. And when we were watching the demo for media last week, I noticed things seemed very sped up in the traversal.
Right. So in the past, we've had what we call a freeway on the wall kind of thing, our very big, massive climb wall. And we're actually going towards more of a point-to-point system, I guess very similar to Uncharted. And then from there, it's a way for us to speed up. Again, players want to fight, and when you're stuck on the wall, your combat's very, very limited. So we want to make sure that there's a way for you to easily get onto the wall and easily get off the wall and get to where you need to go.
You mentioned Uncharted, so that's another franchise where known for just awesome cinematic storytelling.
Right.
They added a very compelling multiplayer. Those guys are like 100 yards from here, maybe
right down the street.
Did you talk to them at all about when you were thinking about bringing multiplayer?
Yeah. We started talking to them, and it was, what did you guys learn? Because this is obviously our first multiplayer game, and they kind of said, hey, don't do this, hey, don't do that, just based off of their learning experience. So we kind of took that to heart, and then part of it is, we got to go through those errors as well. Just like a little kid, you tell them don't touch the stove, and they touch the stove and they burn themselves. So we don't want anybody to turtle up and just sit there. So if you see somebody doing this attack, you got to evade. Mm-hmm. You got to evade out of the way, and then from here it goes into a stun, and then now this guy can combo you and get you into a sweet little combo.
Are you guys working on any parry moves as well?
We're going to see how it works over the lag.
It's all about playtesting, right?
Yeah, it's all about playtesting, but the other thing that we need to do is we need to see how it feels over lag, and which is a huge difference from single player. Yeah. So, but we want to make sure that it really still focuses on the responsiveness that our combat's known for.
Nice shot here. We've got them spinning the wheels to.
Right, to capture the point, and then you can see this guy coming in for an actual special attack, and he'll knock him out of this, and then they'll have to fight it out, and then whoever wins will be able to recapture the point. So here you can see blue owns this point, and then this guy actually turned on this trap, and so he's burning red Zeus over there, and then we've got our Poseidon hammer guy doing one of his specials to the Poseidon sword guy.
And I think this is our last one.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the character models here. Why didn't we see Kratos in multiplayer?
I don't want 8 Kratoses running around. I didn't want a blue one, a yellow one, so on and so forth. And nobody wants to play Robin, so I'm sure fans will say, why isn't Deimos there? Well, if we want to do competitive, creating 8 Deimoses, you need to have that backstory, that lore, to go with that. And then for us, it was, let's build everything off of Kratos' rig. So at that point, we come over with all of our nav animations that we're doing for single player, and then it's really about focusing on the gameplay and adjusting the gameplay versus creating those animations from start. But you can see here that he's aligned to Poseidon. We've got 6 different areas that you can customize: his boots, the skirt, chest piece, shoulders, gauntlets, and helmet. And then you can also customize the sword by choosing different ones that it'll come with. And
I like the calamari look.
In case he gets hungry.
Yes.
You can. It's a to-go snack basically. And then from there, we basically just did body paint on them, and we're also looking at tattoos and body paint, so that you can almost get that Conan look, you know, from the first one, from the first movie. But we wanted to be able to give a bunch of options to the players and let them grind it out a little bit more than what they do in single player.
And this isn't an artist rendering. This is actually...
This is in-game footage.
Yeah, and so very detailed characters. And,
right.
That's...
So this is actually where we started our press demo, but this piece is actually part of the single player. And so you can see just the texture detail, the lighting, the shader maps. We've got new skin shader on him. It's going to look like a single player game. So, I mean, it's might not be the poly count that single player has, but it'll look very, very nice. And
you're definitely looking to keep the same scope and scale that you're familiar with on single player into the multiplayer. Which,
exactly.
Yeah, a lot of work to do, I'd imagine.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, a lot.
So we first showed this, you first showed this last week at a media event, and kind of played a little trick on them by not letting them know what they were going to be seeing.
Right. Our mindset was, if we're going to do multiplayer, if I went up in front of the press and the team showed off single player only, and we said, oh yeah, in a PowerPoint, we're doing multiplayer, I think everybody, including their grandma, would be, why, what are you doing this? Why are you messing up my franchise? What, you know, all this stuff. So that's why we wanted to show multiplayer. And in doing so, we wanted to have a little fun with the press, where we started off with a silhouetted half face of this guy, and he had his helmet off. And then as soon as you push the button, camera zooms out, he puts the helmet on, pulls up his sword, and you can automatically tell this is not Kratos. And then there's the questions. I didn't do any setup on this or anything like that. I wanted them to go in as dry as they could and not know what they were coming into. And then from there, Cyclops busts out the door. Our second player comes in, helps you out, and from there you get a gore kill, and we move on into the competitive arena.
Well, let's see what they thought. They had no idea that multiplayer was going to be shown, so we interviewed the interviewers, and let's see what they thought of the first look of God of War Ascension multiplayer.
Well, I think it's impressive that they've taken the engine that they've used with a game like God of War 3 and kind of made it into this multiplayer affair. The arena looked really cool, looked really violent. It looked familiar yet foreign, which I thought was pretty cool.
I didn't know what was going on at first. I was like, who are all these guys? And there's like, is that Kratos? Is that Kratos? No, that's not Kratos.
It seems like a really natural fit for multiplayer, and it's not something that I would have thought until I saw it.
I'm very excited about multiplayer. I think it's a really interesting approach that they have, and curious to see how the 4 different god classes are going to impact gameplay and weaponry and all that fun stuff.
The idea of like big boss battles, which are sort of inherent to God of War, and then making that sort of the goal of the multiplayer, seems like a really organic way to do it, and so I thought that was cool.
I'm not a multiplayer fan, but that's the kind of game that I think I'm going to want to see.
Anytime an eyeball is pulled out of a giant Cyclops' head, I'm in.
And it was like, oh, nice.